Wow,
There you
how
go.
fancy is that?
It
Welcome
works.
everybody. Welcome everybody to Talking Chickens number 49 with our old friend David Adkins, ABA, APA judge. He's been the past president of the ABA. He's been the past secretary of the APA, and now he's the vice president elect of the American Poultry Association. So, Dave, good to see you, my friend.
Good to see both of you.
Here we're all getting older, but we're still alive. Up here where we are, Dave's in the complete other end of the state than I am. It is right now. This is Thursday in the afternoon. The sun's shining bright. I think it's 22 degrees, and the wind's just sort of blowing, and there's 40 inches of snow. So yay, winter! I think Matt's got not quite as much snow, and Dave has no snow. But everybody's gonna face the cold. It appears, even down I see in it's going to be below freezing in Tampa. It's either
Well,
tomorrow night. There's Jack in the
you back
background.
there. Jack's back there.
Oh yeah, Jack. Dude, yeah. Go away. Yeah. If Mom's not in here, he can't stand it. He's got to be the center of attention. So, but anyway, just a couple of things before we get with Dave. Matt and I last weekend got to go to the Friendship Poultry Show in Morganton, North Carolina, and we had a really good time. And it rained like a cow peeing on a flat rock. I mean, water everywhere, but we stayed fairly dry, unless you had to go to the bathroom or Matt had to switch bars because he got to do large fall and waterfall.
I know
So
I
he
had
had
to
a
put
good time.
my coat on to go over there because it was coming down more than I could stand. That's for sure.
Yeah, it really rained, but we did. They were down a little bit in numbers for a few reasons. Some of the people local went to Florida, excuse me, for Danny and Norma's show, the Sunshine Classic, and other people were just sick. Flu's been going around quite heavy, they told us, and but we still had a really good time, and we held the champion row. Even though there wasn't that much, that's one of the better ACOs I've seen that you handled, Matt. He was a little bit of condition problem on that breast, but he was a really good one, and oh, really, crackerjack golden Steve Wright was he was rough, man. He was really nice, and then one of the best, maybe the best BB Red Old English pullets I've ever handled. Uh, Color wise was I couldn't falter. When I got her up there, I waited for Matt. And Matt picked her up and said, "Well, hell, I can't cut that color nowhere." I said, "Nope." And there was a body there. Granted, it wasn't the body maybe of a blue Wheaton or a Wheaton Old English female, that real chunky body, but she had depth to her and had some length to her, and she had some size to her. She wasn't no wee little tiny thing. So congratulations to all them. We had a really good time. Made it home in pretty good time that night, I thought.
Through
Coming
the
up through the
fog,
miles
fog
through
and
the
rain.
yeah, man, the fog at West Virginia and Virginia was, I mean, it looked like you were going into Armageddon. You went from not too bad to I can't see shit to not too bad to where the hell this come from again.
Yeah.
So it was
Where'd
exciting.
that mountain come from?
Yeah, it was, but we had a really good time and thank those people, uh, Jimmy and all of them that are down there put that show on. It's a very pleasant show to go to. Never had a bad time. So, uh, I don't know. Is there anything else there, Maddie?
The only thing I'll call out, I didn't know it was his until afterwards, but I had a red pile modern cockerel that was best modern, and that is probably the best red pile male I've seen in years. He hit the top of a bantam cage when I went to pose him, so I was really impressed with that bird. Um, the only other thing I've got is I did stick up some information. I had a bunch of questions about those waterers that I use, so I put a video up yesterday on it. So if anybody wants to know about that, didn't see it, it's on the M&M Facebook page. I got several articles today from Doug Hummel. He's been busy writing, and I will add them. They're going to use them in the yearbooks and newsletters, but I'm going to add them to the members only section on the ABA site as soon as I get a little time here to get them formatted and up there. And I think that's it. That's all I got.
All I got, all I'm going to do until we go to, oh, I got one. Some of you might have saw a thing. I was at Eagle Nest yesterday and day before yesterday with Dustin, and that was not the first setting. He had done a setting that's coming off maybe Friday or Saturday of some production. What do they call those buff?
Golden buff. They're kind of like a
Golden,
golden comet.
yeah, golden buffs. But those, the majority, well, all those eggs that you saw in the picture, they were Cornish cross meat chickens. I think we set 2,800.
Jesus.
It sounds like a lot, and you push them in that incubator. And I said, oh, shit, a lot more fit in here. And he went, yeah, no. And we set probably, I'm thinking we set 4 trays, so uh, we probably set 250 to 300 of the exhibition line birds. Uh, and that's, we need to check the fertility and how things are coming. Don't expect a whole bunch from that, but got to start somewhere. So we chunked them in there to see what happened. There was bantams and there were mostly large fowl in there. So we'll see what happened. It'll be 2 or 3 weeks before we start setting duck eggs and goose eggs, although they're laying. Not quite yet. So we'll get them in there before too long. Had the first turkey egg. I meant to tell you that your Belleville whites are laying again, Matt.
Lay.
They
So
it was
don't
it,
know.
it
Those
didn't
that don't know, Dustin got all my Beltsville whites last. Well, it was after we got back from where was that? We went somewhere. He drove us in
Knoxville.
Knoxville. He
Was it
come and got
Knoxville?
them. He's got 2 trios of Beltsville, so I don't know that he's going to offer them yet. He's going to try to build the flock up, but pretty nice birds. And old Matt just don't have room for turkeys, so that's kind of why they went there. And another thing I wanted to add to that, since you talked about the Eagle Nest, getting a lot of questions on the Facebook page, and I kind of help him weed through them because it gets a little overwhelming. But if you're looking for specific exhibition breeds and varieties, either email or call Dustin direct, and he can give you a time frame. I know a lot of people want big waterfowl, but this is, with them just starting out, this is going to be probably a couple months before that starts kicking in. So
Kick it in.
email him direct.
Hopefully middle of next month, but we'll see on those. Yeah, some things are laying quite well. The Langshangs, I got quite a few Langshang eggs. The Polish, I got that. The Creed cores are laying like hell. Uh, the light Sussex, of course, there's a boatload of Cochins, they're laying, and there's a boatload of Buff Orbitons, and they're laying. So, but everything is kicked in a little bit. So it's looking up. Uh, I'll be back over there the last week of this month for the whole week for a couple of different reasons, but I'll be back over there for that whole week. So we do a pod. We might do a pod from Eagle Nest Hatchery that week. So I'm not sure if Terry's going with me. She said she was going, but I've heard that before. So we'll see if she goes with me or not. So things are getting crunch time. He sent me a picture. We got 2 big hatchers are in. The third small hatcher is waiting because he bought another big hatcher that's got to go in first. So things are there, and all the incubators are working, and they've all been, and they're working great. And the hatchers have it. So that's all I got. And with that, Mr. Adkins, how are you today?
Great.
Good deal. Dave, we usually, just because we know you, and a lot of people know you, we do have they may know you, but they might not know how you got started. Kind of run us from the early days and kind of hit the highlights or the low lights or whatever you want to hit through that and kind of bring us up to speed to where we are today.
Okay. My origin story with exhibition poultry started in the early 1980s. Um, we were always big folks for being involved in the county fair. Mother always worked at the fair in one capacity or the other. And the fair board director in charge of the open poultry department asked Mother to take over as that secretary because the lady that had done it for years wasn't able to do it anymore. Um, and so Mother agreed to do that. And the fair board also paid somebody to feed and water the birds. And so I got that job. Um, the first year when we had the show, and Bob Fleming was the open poultry show judge for many, many years. But anyway, after we got through judging that year, Bob said, if, and I didn't know Bob until, we met at that particular fair. But at any rate, Bob said, if you're going to keep doing this, you ought to get a few birds of your own to show. You can make a little money. Well, he's right. He was right. I did get a few birds of my own, and since that time till now, I've made very little money at it. So that's kind of how I got started. Typical, get the Murray McMurray catalog and get that 25 Bantam assortment, and you're off and running. And then you find out that there's a whole other world out there. But anyway, as time went on, I became involved with the Southern Ohio Poultry Association. Spent a number of their years as their show secretary, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 shows. We got to the point where we were doing 2 a year, and got some better birds and started showing more and more at open shows. Tim Bowles and I, for a while in the late 1980s, ran fair strings for a few years. Tim continued to do that for a few years after I kind of backed out of it. And it just kind of went on from there. Spent a little bit of time working for the 4-H program. And as I got to know more and more 4-H folks across the state, I started getting asked to judge county fairs. Still do that. Still enjoy doing that a lot. I like working with the kids. I was a teacher for a living. I'm retired now, but I think last year I judged 29 days at 25 different fairs. So
wow,
that keeps me busy.
Yep.
As far as things that I've raised many different types of poultry over the years, but the one constant has been the partridge Plymouth Rock Bantams, which are becoming more and more difficult to find, or at least I don't see very many of them.
No.
But the involvement just kind of bloomed. The first kind of office in any kind of national organization I had was Carl Fosbrink, and Paul Monteith talked me into taking over the job as secretary of the Plymouth Rock Club. And I think I still have the record as having had that job longer than anybody else. But anyway, I did that for a while and became involved with the ABA. Also, eventually became involved with the APA, as you mentioned, the former secretary, and made the decision this year to put my name in for APA vice president. Nobody else put their name in, so I'm elected by default.
Good deal. Good deal. I know the Partridge Rock Bantams when I was young. Well, when we were all young, evidently. But I can remember going to North Carolina one time with Mark Kefauver, and he was judging, and I rode along, took a couple black coaches. I was probably 17 at the time. And Mr. Roy Whitner was down there, and I had seen a lot of rock bantams, but you never saw many partridge here. But man, he must have had, I don't know, showed 20 or 25, and I was mesmerized by the quality of the. To me, they're a little bigger than what we had here, which that's the way it used to always be on most bantams. A lot of the single comb clean leggeds anyway seem to be bigger, but they were wonderful birds. He was really a nice guy, but other than him and you, I can't name any other people that I remember having that had stuck with and showed partridge rock band. They're a
Well,
beautiful bird. Now, partridge wyandottes, they're all over. You know?
right. I got to see Mr. Whitener's birds at the APA National in Columbia, South Carolina one year, and they were beautiful birds. The most common fault people had with them was that they tended to be a little large, but he did have champion single comb clean leg at that show that year. And
Yep.
I suspect that many of the birds that are still around go back to his.
I
I
would
know
think so. Dave.
some of mine do because Paul Monteith got birds from Roy, and then I ended up with some birds out of Paul's birds. So there's some of that breeding still in mine. Um,
Yeah, they're very pretty chickens, I thought, males and females. But the males seem to have stuck out. Well, I think he won the year we were down there on a female, but his males just, I don't know, they look like a rock.
yeah,
I know I've played with them several times over the years. I got birds from David and created a couple different lines of them, and I got a bird from David to start my partridge chanticleers. So they actually go back to the partridge rocks pretty much. So
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful birds. My favorite color pattern. There's nothing more difficult to raise. I can tell you that over the years to keep all the pieces in check. But it is a very striking bird, both males and females in my mind. And yeah, I think Tommy Stanley got some of those Whitener birds too, didn't he, David? I know he had them for a while, and Norman Ennis and a couple of those guys on the East Coast.
yeah, I'm sure they did. Of course, back in this part of the world, Bill Kruger always had them, but I don't know that Bill ever got birds from Whitener. Of course, Bill's gone now.
Right. Yep.
And I have no idea what happened to those birds.
Yeah, I think all that kind of just like it happens so many times. Somebody moves on to their greater reward, and the birds kind of go every which way, and very few of them perpetuate. So
right.
But even the large fowl are in worse shape probably than the bantams, because I did have three of them at North Carolina, 3 partridge large fowl. That's the first ones I've handled, and I can't tell you how long. And I think Jamie Duckworth's working with them down there. He's got a pretty good start on them, that's for sure. He's got large partridge and large silver penciled. So
Somebody met. I think it was. Oh, I can't believe. Was that Dave Moore's boy that had him in Arkansas?
Arkansas. Yeah.
He had one of the best females I have seen in years, and he had a really nice male too. Unfortunately, he had the trios messed up and him right, but I mean, but he has some very nice big, and it was really nice to see. It was a pleasure because when you don't see anything for so long,
Yeah.
and you get to see a few good ones, I mean that's a lot of fun to judge and handle. So
I remember as a kid,
Herb Bayshore.
Yeah, before I was able to drive, I went with Clay Dove down to Herb Bayshores down around Greenville and seen his, and we went down there just to buy some laying hens, just to have them in the yard. And I wish I had them now. I guess, but Herb had lots of them, and they were everywhere. And he had Flemish giant rabbits, every color in the rainbow, and I think all of Herb's birds when he passed went to Tommy. So some of Tommy's stuff got the Allen blood, the old L.C. Allen up in Maine, I believe, Maine or Massachusetts. That went to Tommy. So some of those old lines all ended up with Tommy, and now Tommy's gone, so we don't have many partridge rocks anymore. I know Dick Hortzman and a couple others were working on them, but
you do realize, gentlemen, we're talking about folks that most of the people that are going to hear this podcast never
have no clue. Yeah.
But half the time, though, that's why they tune in. Those that are interested in what went before and what built what you have now. I was talking with Brent Davenport called the other afternoon. We talked for probably half hour and 45 minutes, and that's the thing. I won't get into how the rant started, but that you know, with the age of what we're doing here and the internet and everything, you know, it's I want everything now, now, and they don't. A lot of them, I can't say all of them. A lot of them don't take the time. Like, I mean, we were readers. We're still readers, and so you collect that stuff and you look back at those publications in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s when people actually made a frickin' living showing chickens. So that was their money. So, I mean, they learned how to do things and how they developed things. And it all took time. And I think, but we do have quite a few people that when we talk to them, and that's every show, I'm always flabbergasted at the people that watch or listen to us on Spotify. But you know, they'd like to know how did this start? Uh, how did they go from the pictures we've seen that they look like hell to the way they look now? What went into that? Who helped? Who were the people? And you know, that's I've always been a history nut, and that's the kind of things. Whether we're talking this, whether we're talking
The
history,
good,
any
the
kind of
good
history,
thing is
or horse history.
I can remember chicken people from 50 years ago, but I can't remember what I had for lunch. So somehow that
Well,
must be more important.
it does. It resonates in a different spot in your brain, I guess.
Well, and I think we're looking if we come from a time where all those guys were out there, and I can remember that, and even stuff I didn't really like or want. I've
Yep.
seen some tremendous birds over the years. We'll talk a little bit about Southern Ohio Poultry Breeders Association. So one of my favorite shows of all time, and I don't know. My wife always says we never planned nothing on Memorial Day weekend, and it was always Mike's anniversary because she knew I was going to be in Lucasville. And I remember one
That was
time down there, Emily graduated from high school. She was 18. She graduated on Saturday, or Saturday night was her party. So I went to the graduation on Friday. I got down there early Saturday morning, Judge, and David let me leave to come back to go to the party. So I wasn't going to miss it.
nope. No,
I missed
it'll always have a soft spot in my heart.
We had
it.
Even
my
though it's the
stepdaughter's party on that weekend.
And
Graduation
then
party.
when you went to the fall show, so my favorite show of all times was always Great Lakes. I never missed that for lots of years up until the time they did away with it. And, you know, Clyde died and they tried to run it for a couple of years, but it kind of went away. And then you guys took that date over. So I think it was the first year that you guys had it and they didn't. I was back down there in the fall too. So they always knew I was heading to Lucasville twice a year and maybe 3 times if I did your fair. So I enjoy those trips, and I can go down 23 blindfolded because I know every curve, every crook, and every little stop on the way. So, and Mike and I actually come back that way last weekend. I couldn't believe all the new stuff that was built. We got a sheets in about every little town down there now, and I said, man, they put a lot of stuff up since the last time I've been down through there. But we had great times. That was some of my best memories are at that show. We always had fun.
Yep.
We had a lot of great shows. And I enjoyed them, but I'm not going to tell you it was my favorite show because there was too much work.
You had to work your ass off. I know.
Yep. Well, and you guys had a lot of big shows, you know, back in the times when there wasn't a lot of big shows. That was always a big show, and ABA semis and nationals and all APA and all those things were there. And we always had great rock classes. Lots of good times. We have lots of Holiday Inn stories too. We could tell, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, that we don't really want to get into that right now. My head hurts just thinking about some of those, shall we say, escapades late into the evening. Sometimes the sun was coming up. So yeah, we had a good time though. Everybody always had a good time there. So it was great. All right, now where do we go, Maddie?
Oh, I think that's where we at. We got the Southern Ohio covered. I was a member of the Rock Club, so I remember David's time there. And for lots of years, I think when Chuck Keene was secretary, so I think he took over after you. I was the points guy for a long time. and did that for him. And Jamie Duckworth and that crew, I talked to them, and I actually shipped him off a whole stack of old newsletters and things because they're kind of trying to revive the Breed Club a little bit. As with anything, if you don't have a good secretary, you don't have anything. And as well as I do over the years, sometimes the people that take those jobs aren't the people that probably should have them. So they've had a big turnover, and I think they're back on track. They got some officers and some district directors, and I see a little online action out of them, and I think it's coming around a little bit because it's still one of the top 10 breeds in the Bantam side, anyways. So those are always good times. I'm trying to think of. Well, Dave, you also have white face black Spanish, so those seem to be on a resurgence.
Yeah, that's the only breed of large fowl I currently have. I've also got a few Rhode Island Red, single comb Rhode Island Red Bantams and a few Black Wyandotte Bantams. I had the Spanish once before, and a variety of things in life got in the way, and they kind of went to the wayside. But trying to work with them a little bit again.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of them in Arkansas. We were out there for the APA National, and I know they've got the club going again. Ray Dillon and a few other ones are Bridget Riddle, and a couple of them are really trying to promote them. So it's good to see them come back, especially in the Bantams, because when the University of Arkansas had them down there, they kind of just give birds to people. So they were everywhere. And then all of a sudden they didn't have them anymore, and they kind of dried up. But I think the Bantams are actually coming back too.
I agree. Great. So, Dave, tell us what we can expect. Maybe what's going on with why did you decide to run for the APA vice president?
My involvement with exhibition poultry has always been pretty much for enjoyment. I'm not super competitive with the birds. If my birds win, that's great. If they don't, life goes on. Okay.
Yep.
I enjoy the shows. I enjoy raising the birds. I enjoy trying to improve the birds. But that's not the area of my life where I am particularly competitive. That competitiveness is reserved for a different aspect of my existence.
Bridge.
Right. Playing duplicate bridge and trying to become a life master. I'm finally getting close. At the bridge table, I'm a little more competitive. But at any rate, because of my enjoyment with the hobby, with the fancy, I've always felt like it was important to also give back. And one of the ways you give back is by, and you two know this as well, is by serving in various capacities with breed clubs, the APA, the ABA. And so I just felt like the time was right. Jeff and I had decided over a year ago that we kind of intended to run as a team. We both feel like that there are some things that need to be approached a little differently. And so we made the decision to run, and apparently nobody else decided they wanted the job, so we're it. But again, I'm doing it as a service, as trying to keep the fancy alive, and trying to keep the organization true to its real mission.
Excellent. Yep.
Jeff and I both believe that ultimately the APA, the ABA, they don't belong to the officers and directors, they belong to the membership.
Exactly.
And when we accept these roles and we accept these positions, our duty is to try to do what is best for the membership.
Yes. Not us.
Not us, not me personally.
Nope.
I think we're in a unique time in this hobby, and I see it just because I do the new membership approvals for us, that we have all these new people coming in. And like we were talking earlier before we come on, those people don't know, these people we're talking about, or don't know the history of the clubs and how they got to where we are. So I think it's some of that, and the reason why I still do it. Number one, I care because I don't want it to see it go to pot, and and then I think we need to educate those new people, and that was some of the purpose of doing this and getting a different variety of people on here to kind of get a historical perspective, and then get some of these new kids and new exhibitors on as well to kind of give that mix, because the influx of new people, I don't think of, well, right now we have more ABA members than we've ever had. We're at about 2,400, which is, big for us because we usually hovered around that 1,900, 2,000 mark for a long time. So the birds are getting more popular. I think people realize they can have a few, and and they're not all going in, with raising 1,000 birds a year. They just have a few in the backyard. And like, for instance, the silkies are the number 2 breed now, and I'm just amazed every time when their memberships come through of all these new silky breeders coming on. So, and I think that's important that some of us stick around to kind of educate them to how we got here.
Well, and we also need to, at least in my opinion, both organizations need to work, and I don't have an answer necessarily, but I think we need to devote some time and effort to membership retention.
Yep.
Yes.
When I was APA secretary for about 6 years, our membership typically ran a little over 3,000, and you had about 1,000 core members that you knew were going to be there till the end. The average life expectancy of the other new members tended to be somewhere between 3 and 5 years. And then you'd lose about 2 out of 3 of those folks. So you're dealing with constant turnover.
Yep.
And I'm not sure why that's true. I don't know if it's, people don't experience the success that they feel like they ought to experience early on in the process. I think part of it's just our modern society. People, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, people come and go so quickly here.
Yes. We call it the 80-20 rule. I've been around the ABA now probably for over 20 years. And we always had that issue. How do we retain that 20% that's always in flux? I would say on the Bantam side, a little more steady, dedicated ones that are in there all the time. But there's always a 20% turnover. And I've fought that, and tried to think, how can we do this? But and even polled some people that aren't renewing to see what most of what we get that don't renew. It's not because they're mad at the organization or they didn't like the experience. We got several members that stay on just for the yearbook, although they don't have birds anymore. But I think it's that turnover. They're in and out of them. So, and we call it the 5-year rule. If you're in it for more than 5 years, you're pretty much going to be a lifer. And that, like you said, that 3 to 5 year range is where they're either going to stay or they're not. And I think they move on to something else. And we see a lot with younger people. But the good thing is some of the ones coming back, I get comments in the note card when they come across that says, well, I was a member years ago and now I decided to get some more chickens and I'm coming back. So I don't know the answer to that problem about membership retention, but the good thing is that it always seems like the new people replace the ones going out. But you're right. We have that turnover. We have to educate those people coming in and we got to have patience doing that. I tell this to some of our directors and new members or old members. Remember when you started? When I started, I didn't know what a cockerel or a pullet was. And Harry Hallback had to tell me, and Wilbur. So we all started at ground zero. And sometimes you have to even judging, sometimes you got to take yourself back to ground zero and see where they're at. And
right.
And I enjoy watching them progress. So like Ashley Shaw we had on here a few years ago. I remember when she started, and to see her progress to where she's at now is a great thing. We got a couple other younger ones I think are going to be the same way. So that's kind of the reward, I guess, for all this work we do. And I know, God, you've seen a million kids, because at one time I did 30 fairs a year too, and I've tried to slow way down. But just I one time I thought I had to judge them all, because if I didn't do it, nobody else would, or they'd have somebody that maybe wasn't up to par on exhibition birds or whatever. But I've kind of slowed down with some of the fairs, but we still hit 20 shows a year or so. So I think that's my way of giving back to some of what I got out of it. And it's my only hobby. I don't play golf and I don't do bridge and I do it. That's pretty much it. So mow the grass and show chickens. That's my two main purposes in life. Take care of my dogs.
I think I think that what we do is in a lot of ways, what you learn in retail, uh, and other things is, do they feel like they're getting value for what they're doing? And by value, I don't necessarily mean monetary. A lot of it is communication. Are they being informed? Is it easy to keep up with what's going on? Are they a part? Even if they're not a part, do they feel a part of? And it's what we said. We do this for the members and not for ourselves. So do they feel like, can they see where we're going? That we want to bring them along to better the entire uh, fancy in whatever organization. I don't give a shit if you're a breed club or what you are.
Yep.
I mean, if they don't know, they don't know what's happening. They don't know, well, I didn't know we had a meet here, or I didn't know that, but no one told me, or I didn't read that in the minutes or the whatevers. Well, there's just a part of you that they don't like it, and I think that you have to keep that in mind. And I think truthfully that it seems to be going that way.
Well,
Whether that, go ahead.
that's part of what, and Jeff and I have talked about this, but that's the whole communication issue is a part of what we hope to at least make a little more timely within the APA.
Yes.
There's no point in going into all the history of why they do the things they do in the order that they do them right now, but members need to be informed. They need to at least have access to the information about what happens in these meetings in a much more timely manner than is currently occurring, in my opinion. And so that's a part of what we want to work on, is just keeping the membership informed and on what has been done. And then they can have the opportunity to have a discussion with their elected representatives if they feel strongly about a particular issue. But when you don't see minutes of a meeting for 6 or 8 months after the meeting happened, it's not, at least in my mind, it's not good for your public relations aspect of things.
No, because people feel like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
And I mean, and if you just look at the way society is, our society, well, worldwide now, and the things you have to disseminate, and who's full of shit, and who's telling you just one side of the story, and keeping it. I mean, so skepticism is becoming more and more real. So I think when you say, here's what we did, here's why we did it, here's what we're thinking about doing, how do you feel about this? What do you think? And if they don't respond to the how do you think, then there's no bitch. But if they got a problem, let's hear it, because it's that's the way that viable, growing, breathing organisms. That's how you grow. That's how you stay viable and not just, I'm a member because I've always been a member. Well, that doesn't do shit, and that's why apathy comes in. Nobody wants to help. Well, then again, that's kind of your fault too. If you're the guy that don't want to help, you want to bitch, but you don't want to get in there and see if you can make it better. That's that's part of it, man. That's part of the deal. That's why we do what we do. That's why we've done it for as many years as we've all done it. That's why we drive 14 hours. to look at some chickens or to show some chickens. Eh,
I kind
And
of go back
I don't.
because I actually remember when David took over as president. So that takes me back a few years. But and then I was in the technology business, and I think that's the thing we have to get past. You have to embrace these changes quicker, faster than even we did back then, because there was a lot of resistance. David can remember back then. Oh, we're not going to go on that internet. That ain't never going to last. Well, my God, look now. And and so I've always been one that helped these clubs with any kind of assistance I could give them for technology, because you need to get out there for good or bad. The speed of communication since when I started in the 70s to the way it is now. We used to wait for the poultry press every month. We used to wait for the quarterlies. There wasn't no instant stuff, so it all come that way. And when you got that, I mean, that was my deal. I'd sit down and read it, and read every page all the way through to get all the stuff out of there that I needed to know about. Now, it can happen 5 minutes, and 2 minutes after that, it's on the internet. So I think the adjustment and the younger group coming in, they're into these phones and instantaneous apps and things like that. So some of the new stuff coming, we're curious this weekend. The Congress, Ethan Pullen and Cheryl Barnaba and the Congress crew are using a new show program. I think that's going to be a great thing to move. The biggest trouble we have right now is getting somebody to be the show secretary. And I've been one, you was one for years, and we all know what work's involved with that. And my byline anymore is I'll drive 14 hours to go to one before I'll ever put one on again. But I think we're getting them some tools to make that job easier. It went from a strictly manual deal to where we got it somewhat automated and progressed a little bit. But I think now we're going to that next level, and I'm curious to see what that does. And I think that makes these younger, newer exhibitors happy to see that we're, embracing that new stuff and trying to get it out there. One more thing I'll say before I let David talk, because he's the one on here. But I've been in these organizations, and I started at the bottom and pretty much as just a member, and then just as an advisor, and then as a director, and then as an officer. But you're only as good as the people you got around you. And if you don't have that right mix of people, things can go south pretty quick. And I learned that early on with these clubs, and being involved in some good breed clubs and being involved in some not so good breed clubs. That was the problem. So I was glad that you and Jeff took that leap of faith to jump in there, because I think that's what's needed. And you've got the time and experience to take us farther, and then to put the right people in the right positions. I think, and that's the key right there in my mind.
I agree. Again, again, for us, a large part of our thought process and goal is to make sure we are, in fact, keeping the APA as a member-centered organization. There's a proposal that the members of the APA will soon be getting a ballot to vote on. And Jeff and I have expressed an opinion on that. It's a proposal basically to eliminate the current constitution and bylaws and change everything to just basically a bylaws situation. And as a part of their proposed changes, currently to change anything in the Constitution requires a vote of the membership. The board can, through a process, and that process is well outlined, and it is well outlined in the new proposal document as well. But at any rate, the board can change the bylaws by going through a process. It is the belief of Jeff and I that there are some things about an organization that are so important, such as the name of the organization, the officers that the organization has, the duties of those officers, some of the procedural kinds of things about an organization are so important that in order to change those, it should actually require the affirmative input of the membership, as opposed to just leaving everything to the board of directors. And so it was on the front page of the last issue of Poultry Press. My understanding is the document's been out there on Facebook. It will be in the next APA newsletter. Jeff and I have taken the position that we should oppose those proposed changes. It will be a ballot measure that the membership will have to vote on. So we are encouraging the membership of the APA to vote no for the reasons I just stated, to keep those things that are that important to the organization as a separate part of the governing documents that require membership approval to change.
And
Now, that's
exactly.
not, go ahead.
No, exactly. And that's the one thing I wanted to make sure I reinforced with the members that are members of the APA is the importance of voting, because you may not have a district director, competition in your district or whatever. Make sure whichever way you want to go that you actually vote. That's the thing. And what happens in these elections, I've seen over the years where there's not a lot of competition for the head offices and for your district director, is people just kind of disregard that. Make sure you take the time to get that vote off. What's the percentage of members that vote, Dave? It's a very low percentage. It's just like our country. A very low percentage of the people that vote, a very low percentage of the membership are the ones that vote and make those decisions. So if you don't take part in that, you can't bitch. It's kind of
in the elections I dealt with, it was about 40% at its peak. And again, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I encourage every APA member, when they get that ballot, to vote and send it back in. If you don't agree with the position I've taken, that's fine. Then vote to accept the changes, but vote. That is your most important way to be involved in your organization.
Yep.
Is to make your opinion known through the ballot.
And it's one of the few chances you as a member, and this goes on the ABA side or a Breed Club side, we're kind of a representative organization. So if you've got an issue, you've got to take that up with your district director, and then he has to then take it to the board to get anything done. You're not doing it individually. This is one of the few chances that you as an individual get to state your piece. So it's very important to do that. I can't reiterate that enough, I guess, because a lot of people just don't take the time to think about it. But this is a very important change coming up that they want to propose, and I tend to agree with you on. We want to keep everything member centric. I've been that way the whole time I've been in the ABA. Lord knows I talk to more members probably than most presidents have ever done, because I'm just readily accessible. But every question you have is an important one, and this one, you don't have to go through your district director to get something done. You actually can do it yourself. So,
right. And that's not to say that, within that set of proposed changes, there are many, many things that are, to me, very necessary. Again, the objection we have is to the procedural change on how certain aspects of the organization's management can be changed. There are some reforms in there in terms of the whole voting process that are drastically needed because of the current state of the Postal Service and the amount of time it takes to get mail to and from folks. There are some things in there that really need to be better defined and better clarified as far as the duties and roles of different people within the organization. But at the same time, all that good that I see in there, and many of those things are actually things that I advocated for when I was secretary, it still needs to be the organization belonging to the membership. And there are some things, and we can debate which things those are, but there are some things that are so important that they belong in a set of clearly defined things, which we call a constitution or parts of the bylaws or whatever, that can only be changed with member input, and member input directly through the ballot process.
good deal.
So, again, that's why I am where I am on the issue.
I totally agree.
Yep.
And Jeff and I are on the same page. I mean, anything that is out there for public consumption, we've discussed and we agree on our position before it goes out there. This isn't me speaking on Jeff's behalf, and I'm sure Jeff isn't doing that on my behalf either.
I was
Good.
I guess the privileged position of being his vice president on the ABA side for a while, and so yeah, and I like his style of leadership. It's pretty cut and dry and directly to the point, and bing, bing, bing. We have a list of things here we need to do, and how we're going to do it, and who are we going to get to do it. And he was very successful on our side getting those done because he put the right people in the right spots to get that work completed with membership input, of course, because that's always the first thing we want to make sure that what we're doing is, and I think Karen and Kevin and I and Kim all talk about that a lot when we're making some change that how is this going to benefit the membership? It's not always how to make the work easier for the secretary or, for the board or whatever. Is how this is going to benefit the membership. And I trust that that's definitely the way you guys are going to head.
But you're right. You do have to have those right people in the right jobs for volunteer positions.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. We're all volunteers. So other than the secretary, nobody's compensated. And usually the secretary's not compensated very well. So for all they do. So yeah, we're all volunteers. You got to remember that too, that we're doing this in our own time and taking time out of our lives to make sure this thing runs. So I appreciate
right people in the right spot, and then you let them do the job.
And all three of us are most interested in making sure this thing is available for the next generation.
Exactly.
Because of what it's meant to us.
Yep. Just, if you just take the friendships, if you never won a damn thing, if you never became a judge, you never became an officer like we've all been, like we are now. It's just the people we've met along the way. The stories are fantastic. That's what gets me. It's the people. We talk about the good birds we've seen and everything. Well, somebody made that bird, and a lot of times we know all the steps that went in it. It's just to me that's it's worth the price of admission just for the people that you can meet and develop a relationship with, instead of just seeing their face on some 3-second blog. They got 1.5 million likes. Okay.
So that's another point, and I've said this a lot on here, and that's probably why I get like a lot of people coming up to me at the shows. But none of us are unapproachable. And don't be bashful. The worst thing you do in this hobby is not ask the question you want to ask. So no matter what it is, there's no stupid question, only the one you didn't ask, and come up and ask it. And normally, if I don't have the answer, I'll try to find it for you. And that's the thing. We're now with this instant communication type system. I get between this and hatching time and the hatchery now, I get lots of questions and I get to them. Might not be like immediately, but we'll get to them all. But don't be afraid to ask if you've got a question or procedure. I had a woman, for example, asked me about ABA leg bands. And she goes, well, I bought a bird, but the leg band's cut. Is that going to affect me? I said, no. I said, I actually do that myself because I can't never get them on at the right time. So I have to cut it and snap it on. But, she kind of was afraid to ask it. But I said, no, ask those questions. That's a new member. I said, ask all that you have, and we'll try to answer them the best we can or point you to the right direction.
That's how you learn.
And that's part of being member-centric and not a director-centric. So.
And about the leg bands.
The leg bands,
they've been delayed, correct?
Yeah, we're delayed a little bit, and we're not sure why. We kind of think it's tariffs. So our leg bands come from Germany, and getting a little off subject, but they come from Germany, and we're in contact with the manufacturer, and with the tariff thing, I think there's extra paperwork or something that's involved. So we're expecting them the first part of February. But as soon as we get them, they'll go out. I know Kim's going over to Karen and Kevin's to help with the initial rush. Because I think last year we sold 60,000 leg bands. So, that's bundling them up one at a time here, or counting them out one at a time to get them going. So as soon as we hear anything about, the ETA, I will get that out there so everybody knows.
Yeah. But I just wanted to know that they
I
have been
put that at the beginning, but they are coming. We just haven't got them yet.
Okay. Well then.
Gentlemen,
Anything else, David? So you've been in it over 30, 40 years maybe. What do you think we do good now, and what can we improve? That's always the $1 million question.
that's the $1 million question. As I've said before, I think we can improve in member communication. Just my own personal opinion, I think in general, the quality of the birds shown today is probably as good or better than it's ever been.
I agree.
We need to encourage more folks to be breeders. And I think we're moving in that direction. If this new program that you've been talking about for data entry for shows works out, I think that'll be a great step forward, because that's the way the new folks in the hobby want to enter birds, deal with results, find out exactly what happened as soon as it happened, as opposed to, I'm old enough, I remember sitting when a show was over and writing out every single placing for the show, and it was printed in the back of the poultry press, and that's how you found out 2 or 3 months later. Okay,
I can remember doing that on a typewriter, an old type, and typing them out for. Back then it was Bob Delancey, before actually Bill took it over. But when Bill took it, I think the West Central Ohio Poultry Breeders Show was the last show that had those in the back of the poultry press. And I actually did it on a computer, but that takes a long time to go through every class and get it accurate too, was the other thing. But I love that part of it. That's one of the things I missed from the poultry press, was that it was like a box score for a baseball game. If I wanted to get some partridge rock bantams, I can go look and see who showed where. It was great, but I couldn't imagine the time it took to do it back then before the technology kicked in.
But those placings show you success across the spectrum, as opposed to
one bird.
We had one bird. But at any rate, I think that's a step in the right direction. But I think we're going to have to take additional steps to try to make this whole experience within exhibition poultry more, if you will, user-friendly in the age of technology.
Yep, exactly.
Yes. I agree.
So that's something we can do better.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually, I think it was several podcasts ago, I was telling you earlier, but I put out this list of things I want in this program, mainly because I don't have the capabilities to do it myself. But I knew what I wanted as an old show secretary and as a judge and as an exhibitor. This is what I need. And Ethan, when Mike and I had on here, we're kind of both amazed, because I had a whole list of crap that I wanted to, and I popped them off, and he had an answer for everything and then some. So we're looking forward. I know Saturday I'm going to be on my phone looking at the ticker to see what's coming through and how it's going. But interested to see how it works. And I encourage all show secretaries, like I did before, to get a hold of him. Is farther down in our podcast, you'll see the contact information and Facebook page and website for the poultryhub.com. I think poultry-hub.com is how you can get to it. But great program. We're blessed that he did it, because I've been asking for it for a while, and it needed to be done by a chicken person. anybody can write a piece of software, but unless you're actually familiar with the project you're on and how it functions, we had this at work for a machine. We didn't have somebody just write a program. The guy that worked on that machine went over there with them and kind of walked them along. So I think that was a good thing that he actually had some exhibition poultry experience, and he knew what we needed and blended that with the new technology. And I think that's how we got to move forward.
I guess one thing I would encourage, I'm assuming that probably some number of the folks that are going to watch your podcast are probably relatively new. And always keep in mind that when you go to a show, those of us who are asked to judge these shows are also human beings, and we do make mistakes, and we do look at birds differently, and we have an extremely limited amount of time to look at any given bird. But I think most judges are approachable and will attempt to explain if you have questions. Don't feel, bad about going up and asking a judge, why did you pick this over this or whatever. But keep in mind that this is ultimately one particular person's opinion on one particular day. And as with any aspect of human behavior, we are going to have disagreements about the decisions we make. But somebody told me one time that we can disagree without being terribly disagreeable. So
there you go. Exactly.
Yeah. And not only the, one opinion, but I mean, we all know it's that moment in time. And how many times have we taken a bird to championship row and looked at it and thought, oh, shit, it doesn't look anything like it showed back there.
right.
And then you look back there and you'll think, oh, that second place bird is showing its butt off now. But it's that moment in time. And then with the double shows, you catch them at 9, 10 in the morning, and then circles through, and the next person batch comes, and it's 1 in the afternoon.
Can be a world.
That's a long time to be. They look different. Now, granted, a lot of times that if there is one standout, the one standout may still stand out, but it may not. If she may be in the back of the cage and is not getting up for anybody, or they're living creatures. So
it's a snapshot in time of that 1 minute. 1 minute that you got there to be with it, and I think on the most part, everybody does a really good job of working through, like you said, with the time constraints. Because I think a lot of other species spend a whole lot more time with them than what we get. We're expected to, handle 400 birds a day and still get them out of there at a reasonable time. And that's easier said than done, especially as I get older, to buzz through them that fast. But we get it done, and I think the majority of the time there's no issues. And please, if you do have a question, and please ask us a question about how we judge the bird, because sometimes I get questions about how they breed the birds, and if it's not something I've had or had any experience with, I can't help you there. I can tell you what my picture of my mind is of what it's supposed to look like, but how you make that and get that might be a question for someone in another aisle. But we can tell you how we judge that bird that day and what we've seen and what we didn't see. And please ask that. That's the only way you learn. And don't let that opinion be your whole basis for your breeding program either.
No.
No, get lots of opinions from lots of different people.
Yep. And if they all start to click together, then maybe you're going down the right path.
Yep, I agree. And another thing about that judging in the time, it's if you've got a whole bunch of really good birds, in one way that's easy, but in another way, as a judge, you don't want to pass something over. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer. We have to take longer than that minute and a half. First opinions usually are the correct opinion, usually. But again, they're living animals. They can change by the time you got all them check marks on those, in this case, let's just say 48 BB red Old English pullets. and you walk back through and you'll think, damn, well,
Where'd that
good
one
thing
come
you
from?
checked them or you plussed them or whatever, because shit starts looking a lot alike. And it's all correct. So it takes longer, but make sure, don't be pissy that it's taken a little bit of extra time. Now, if you think long, you think wrong. I'm a firm believer in that. You should be able to make the decision. But sometimes it's all according to the class. You get into a class of 15 of them, and there's one that catches your eye. That's pretty easy because you'll pick out that one, then you can go back down through it and see. So that's faster judging. But like you're right, David. It's just we're human too. We have bad days. Lord knows I've had them. I walked up to Champion Row and thought, who the hell put that up? And I was told, you did. I went, ah, shit. So, but I mean, things happen. We're all human. We try. Uh,
Well, we
and
also know
we're
more
right.
about some things than we do others. I mean,
Exactly. 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 And when it comes right down to it, I know we spend a lot of money going there, and I know what all that costs, but you know what? It's still a damn chicken. It's a chicken, it's a duck, it's a goose, it's a guinea, it's a turkey. So you got to take everything. No one's going to die because, you think you should have been second, but you were third. So just remember that. But I think for the most part, I agree with Matt. I think we all try, and we try within our abilities to do the best we can do every time out. So,
make sure the
but
birds
like,
suit you. Make sure you
yes,
like the birds, and you're having a good time raising the birds, and so on and so forth. And if you win, that's great. And if you don't, try to find out why. But it's not
right.
a personal thing. It's
No.
one guy's opinion
Oh,
about one particular bird on one particular day,
yep,
or gal.
exactly. Or gal. Yep, exactly. Good
Gentlemen,
deal.
this has been fun.
Yes, I would
Been fun,
give some
David.
shameless plugs here because we got to pay for our sponsors. Their sponsors pay for us. Rozier's Poultry Supply. They're getting busy this time of year. I know that they were in Florida. Now they're heading to Oklahoma to the Pigeon National. So get a hold of Caitlin, Tim, and
Kim.
Kim. If you need something, they'll take care of you. Eagle Nest, you see the updates here. No, Mike and I don't own Eagle's Nest. We just help our buddy Dustin out. And he is really doing a lot of stuff over there. So we try to keep that updated, and we give him plenty of unsolicited advice. So that's kind of
Yep.
where he's at. I know the incubators are getting full, the hatchers will be full, and then hatching time. My God, I don't know how many incubators I've peddled here in the last few months, but if you're needing an incubator, give them a look. There's lots of stuff out there, but we kind of like theirs, and the waters. I'm happy with those that I got from them. So keep those people in mind. I think with
And
that,
use that link.
and
Use
use
that
that
link, and it is
link.
$25 off an order if you use the dedicated link and not the code. But we put the link up. Okay.
Yeah, the links on. It's actually. I did try it the other day. So if you got your phone, I watched this on my TV because I can't see it on this little computer screen. But I scanned that link and it did bring it up. So that is the hatching time link up. I guess it's over there for people watching.
Yep. And also like, subscribe, and share this. It's been going good. Uh, we're up 10 or 11 members on YouTube since the last update we had. So that's good. My goal is 500, and we'll see what happens then.
I was looking through some of the stats on Facebook. So several of these podcasts are over 10,000 views. So that just amazes me. One, number two, and then where they're at all over the world. So we get people watching everywhere. So they see how one, they're either watching because we're crazy or I don't know. We got chicken people everywhere. So that's a good thing. All
Yep,
right.
there's
Well,
always
thanks,
something in
David,
common.
again for coming
You're
on.
very
And
welcome. Thank you
I'd
for
say
having me.
good luck in the
Thank
election,
you.
but you're already in there, so now you're nailed to the cross.
I guess. Take care,
Good hell,
gentlemen. We'll
Dave.
see you somewhere.
All right, take care, guys.